Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Mia. I'm one of the producers of TWIML Fest, and we're excited to have you here for the second session of the AI for Good Hackathon. So this will be the session for asking questions, and I know your host has some things lined up for you. But before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors in support of today's session and of TWIML Fest for making this all possible. And also, since today's session is hosted on Zoom, please take a second to note where the chat is and feel free to send any questions. We'll be monitoring the chat. And now I'd like to hand it over to your hosts, Edgar, Rutileu, and Kai Lichtenberg.
Hello, everyone. I was wondering, so I'm Edgar, whoever don't know. I'm a data scientist for the Future Society, and we're then building the modern slavery project and researching the subjects. And I wanted to ask here, by using the Zoom raise hand feature, who here did not participate our last week's session? Could you please indicate that? Okay, seems like there's nobody raising their hand, which then means that everybody either we can't find the raise hand feature, or everybody.
Yeah, you got two, Edgar, who weren't here last week.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So maybe then I'll very briefly describe the hackathon. And okay, yeah, in the chat we see some people showing. So I'll very briefly describe the hackathon, and for the rest, this session is more of a Q&A. So everybody who made their submissions can ask questions or specify aspects or raise discussion points or criticize or anything like that. But I'll then quickly go through the hackathon concept in a few minutes, and then we can proceed with the Q&A. And then the next week's session, which then will be happening at the same time, or if you're in Europe, then an hour earlier due to daylight saving change. Then the next week, we can then discuss some lessons learned from the modern slavery research, also some cases, how this research can be taken forward. Whoever is interested in contributing more to the project, what's the framework of collaboration, how to contribute to open source projects, etc. But let me now find the slide, so I'll walk through that project. Does anyone have any organizational questions right away? Okay, looks like no. One second. Okay, I'm going to share screen. So let's try to get this one off from here. Okay, so we're doing a modern slavery hackathon, and the idea is to then design solutions that would help combat modern slavery in the world. Modern slavery can be forced labor or forced marriage. And in this case, we're specifically discussing forced labor. It's a global problem covering, impacting about 40 million people, of whom around 25 million are in forced labor. And the way we can combat this issue is by analyzing the modern slavery statements. Modern slavery statements are statements that companies making more than 36 million must produce, indicating how they are researching this topic, how they are then taking any steps, whether they have specific mechanisms in place, etc. These statements are free text statements, so companies can they can put infographics there. They can actually legally only have an empty piece of paper with a signature, and that would comply. Or they can write long documents. So, for example, Amnesty International is one of the reporting entities, and they have a 30-page modern slavery statement. So these statements hugely vary in length, so they can be a few hundred words or multiple pages. At present, we have a corpus of about 12 to 17,000 statements, and then relying on our partner Wikirate, we have managed to then get expert reviewed labels on about 1,000 of those statements. And those labels then include a variety of different types of information, such as risk assessment, risk management, training programs, whistleblowing mechanism, whether the statement is approved, and so forth. For the purposes of this hackathon, we're only talking about the training. So the question is, does the company provide training to its employees or suppliers or leadership, or there was any more? Does it provide to any of the does it provide this training to any of its associates? And then we have set up a Kaggle competition. Let me pull this one open here. And okay, share this one. We have opened up a Kaggle competition, which is a mini Kaggle competition. So it's a classroom competition, which means that you don't get a Kaggle. So this competition does not award ranking points, and it doesn't count towards tiers. However, it does allow you to compete for prizes. You have one more week to supply, to make your submissions. And more above everything, it enables then anyone to contribute to the modern slavery research, because what we are interested in is having algorithmic solutions to finding what are the statements saying, do companies provide the training, and the better solutions we can then integrate into a predictive classification algorithm that can then be used for benchmarking modern slavery statements, which in turn can be used for large-scale analysis of tens of thousands of statements, which then again allows the advocacy groups and researchers, etc., to put more pressure on the companies to do better due diligence for their supply chains and take action, as well as to actually enact specific legal requirements to improve this type of reporting. And for example, an example of that is that the UK government just recently released a new set of requirements for the reporting. So in the longer term, this type of data will become more specific in the context of the UK, and hopefully for some in other countries will be following suit. So currently at the leaderboard, we have 7 submissions. I am not allowed to show you the private leaderboard, but I will take the take the courage to say that the private leaderboard looks different than the public leaderboard, and it's almost everyone in the public leaderboard have some different rank than their public rank. So I hope that this would motivate everyone to make even better submissions and submit new entries, because absolutely everything is up for grabs. That's a short intro on the hackathon. So maybe anyone who didn't participate last week's session could ask any specifying questions about this, about the hackathon or the data or the setup or anything like that. So
also remember that you can rewatch the session from last week on YouTube.
That's right.
So from my side, there's only one thing I wanted to add, and you kind of mentioned it already. It's what I've said numerous times. Really trust your own validation. I've seen some on the leaderboard submitting pretty often, because of the very few data points in this data set, it's really dangerous to unwillingly overfit to the leaderboard, because you will by chance get better results when you do something on your data modeling and then get a better result on the leaderboard. Maybe it's not really significant and important for this data, but it by random chance gave you a little bit better model. And with such few data, that's something that's very dangerous and could happen.
That is absolutely true. I wanted to also share with you what's happening with the results of the hackathon. So it goes without saying that the results shall be open sourced. That's the wrong screen. Let's find the right screen. Okay, still showing the same. Let's do this then. So this is a public modern slavery statements research repository, and then everybody who is willing to and interested can get their submissions and their research included in here. Because what this includes so far is mostly work done by TWIML NLP embeddings community. So what you can have here is if you pip install this repository or this package, then you will get to download the corpus. The corpus here, the corpus includes I think about 10,000 unlabeled statements. So using the competition results, we will then start scoring these unlabeled documents to start seeing what the actual real effect of those algorithms is. And so far, we have had 5 contributions from the NLP community, which are then unsupervised different types of analysis of this corpus. So by Ray, Parth, Darin, and Gautam, they've used a variety of different NLP methods to gain more knowledge and information out of this corpus. So the winning solutions, as well as anyone else's solutions who is interested in contributing, will be included into this public repository. So you can use this as your portfolio or in your CV or anything like that.
Edgar, are you speaking to something that's was up on your screen? We just saw like a blank Zoom page.
Are you serious? Oh God. Yes. So let me just try this one more time. Okay. Do you see a GitHub repository now?
Yep.
Okay. So everything I said applies for this repository. This repository is called Modern Slavery Statements Research. You can pip install the tools. You do need, at this point, AWS credentials to get access to this corpus. However, you get their credentials as soon as you just send an email to my email address saying that you want credentials, and I'll send the credentials to you. And then this is the list of public contributors that we've had from the NLP embeddings group on different types of unsupervised methods. Yeah, so that's what I was talking about. Sorry for that.
And last time you or Kai mentioned using external data sets. I remember distinctly you can't like go hand label this data set and train on it, but using the additional unlabeled data set that is posted here, is that inbounds or out of bounds for the competition?
Yeah, this you can use, but since it doesn't have labels, it's not going to help in the competition. So maybe I can clarify further on this point. So yeah, so basically you can use any type of pre-trained models. You can, or like, let's say, models trained on large corpora of similar language, etc. Where these labels come from is from Wikirate. And basically what is not allowed to do, I'll then show this clearly, is to take the labels from the Wikirate. They are not one-to-one the same as in the corpus, but it is possible to engineer those together. And then when you make your submission, then we would verify that basically you haven't done that in your code. Also, if you do that, then it's completely useless for the research project. But for some reason, I'm unable to open this now. But the point being, yeah, is essentially it's a crowdsourced platform where then the crowdsourced labels have been expert reviewed, and there's a modern slavery research project in here, and which includes metrics. Now, as soon as these metrics open up, I can show them further, but somehow something slow is happening with my connection at this point, so I can't open it. But it always happens, hey? Like whenever you want to show it, then it doesn't upload. But basically, this using data from this page specifically is not allowed. Using everything else is allowed. That's the point I was making.
And was there something in this competition where the leaderboard was going to be reset this week, or is that code names that I'm thinking?
That's code names.
Okay. I guess I should mention for the record that I'm just messing around here. I'm not claiming any prizes if by random chance I end up at the top of the leaderboard.
I saw your submissions, so glad to see you competing. Yeah, in any case, your solution will be useful for the research, but point taken about the prizes. Yeah.
So there is a question by Sahil in the chat, in the Zoom chat actually, and Sahil, I would encourage you to take this text, copy it, and paste it over to Slack so that people can discuss your issue. Because I don't think that we can answer it at the moment here. It's more for a forum discussion.
Okay, so accuracy doesn't really change even when 5+ decimal points, and the loss values fluctuate a lot, even with small learning rate. Any insight anyone would be willing to share on why such a thing would happen? It's not a pattern I have faced before, but happened with some of the more powerful models I'm trying out. So one thing is that there is a difference in metrics. And so we have, so basically what you mentioned here is accuracy, and the log loss is the metric of the competition. And the key point between those two metrics is that a log loss is a probabilistic metric, whereas accuracy is a threshold metric. And the threshold metric means that if you calculate a probability of a given example classifying to a certain class, then let's say you get like 0.7, then you have to set like some sort of a cutoff, and most common cutoff is 0.5. So then 0.7 would classify as 1, and then everything that is below 0.5 would be classified as 0. And this threshold then could determine a lot. And log loss, what log loss does is that it really cares about the probabilities and the confidence of the probabilities. So if you predict, if something in the test set is labeled 1 and you predict 0.9, then you will score higher on the log loss than if you predicted 0.8. Yeah, so by being more confident in your probability gives you more points, and the reverse is also true. If you if the true label is 0 and you predict 0.9, then you're going to get a lot more penalty than if you predicted, for example, 0.7 or something like that. So so yeah, so the log loss is the one that we're using for the competition, which is then what matters, and that is something that would give us deeper insight into which types of methodologies really are more confident or more certain, or and that can also be combined with other models. I don't know if that answers any of the question. If somebody has a better answer, then go ahead.
Well, also, I think the jumping loss comes, I see that often when you have very few data points, because if you really have a change in one data point, then it has a big impact on the overall loss. So that's something I've seen that in image classification, for example, when you have really few examples, that the loss can jump really big around.
Yep. Oh yeah, I'll post the link of the GitHub repo to Slack.
I posted it.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to hear more about this private leaderboard.
We'll talk about it in a week.
So the private leaderboard is the scores on the private test set.
That's right.
Yeah, so we're scoring the 331 or so points on this test set, and you're taking some random half of those roughly for the public leaderboard and the other half for the private leaderboard.
Exactly. And for anyone who hasn't, participated, sorry.
Sounds like there's a lot of people overfitting.
Probably.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't done any Kaggle competitions, then the purpose of the public and private leaderboard is that there are good algorithms that allow you to essentially hack the public leaderboard by making your submissions and then improving your submission through that. So then some data is kept hidden in order to avoid this hacking.
I think there are really some really high-rated Kagglers that are just creating their models privately and not submitting to the public leaderboard, and do that very late in the stage because they fear overfitting to the leaderboard without even wanting to overfit to the leaderboard. But it happens because you get better, and then you dig into this approach, and that does not help. All right, I think if there are no more questions. You can always ask questions on Slack.
Yeah, if anyone's interested, I can like show more of the wiki rate of how the original data is collected, just to give like deeper insight into that. I finally got the page loaded. So let me just share the screen. And now, can you confirm that you see the wiki rate page?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, so we have the MSA training. That's one of the metrics on WikiRate platform, and this is essentially we have all these different types of cases. So a company, and from here we can see like the original statement of that company, and then this is how it's been then marked that a person reviewer read the statement and marked that that, for example, this statement talks about training to procurement, purchasing, leadership, employees, etc. Or if they have read the statement and then it says that training is provided, but it's not specified to whom or about what. So this would be the negative case, and this would be the positive case. There's also some comments here based on what the reviewers have read. And Sam pointed out in the chat that there is some noise in here. So there are some cases. So for example, where there's like almost like both in here. So there's that the statement does say that that all employees receive the training, but then at the same time it's marked the training that it's not specified who receives the training. Based on some analysis, this should be like a very small amount of the data, but already this, like I've already then flagged it to this platform, so that they would then do like a quality check on their on the data. And then that means that already by having this feedback, we can already improve the data that is available for the project, which then in the future will improve the project outcome. So thank you, Sam, for raising this. Yeah. Yeah, if anyone wants to go ahead, then I can dig into the wikirate.org. It's generally a very nice website for crowdsourced website for collecting company data on climate change, on different types of issues. All the different reports and statements are included here. So it's just generally a nice database to work with. Yeah, if there are no more specific questions, then I think it probably makes sense to wrap this up. And whoever has questions can then either contact me personally or write in Slack or write on TWIML Fest Slack or any of the above.
Sounds good. Thank you, Edgar.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Don't forget everyone to come to Kai's session, which is coming up soon.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.